Our second lesson today comes from the third portion of Isaiah. Shout out, do not hold back. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Announce to my people their rebellion, to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet day after day they seek me and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that practiced righteousness and did not forsake the ordinance of their God. They ask of me righteous judgments. They delight to draw near to God. Why do we fast, but you do not see? Why humble ourselves, but you do not notice? Look, you serve your own interest on your fast day and oppress all your workers. Look, you fast only to quarrel and fight and to strike with a wicked fist. Such fasting as you do today will not make your voice heard on high. Is such the fast that I choose a day to humble oneself? Is it a day to bow down the head like a bulrush and to lie in sackcloth and ashes? Will you call this a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? Is not this the fast that I choose, to loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover them and not to hide yourself from your own kin. Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up quickly. Your vindicator shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry for help, and God will say, here I am. If you remove the yoke from among you, the pointing of the finger, the speaking of evil, if you offer your food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light shall rise in the darkness, and your gloom be like the noonday. The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your needs in parched places and make your bones strong. And you shall be like a well-watered garden, like a spring of water whose water never fails. Your ancient ruins shall be rebuilt. You shall rise up the foundations of many generations. You shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of streets to live in. The word of Isaiah the prophet to the people of God. Thanks be to God. All right, when you think about a dark place, what comes to mind? For me, it's underground tunnels and caves that pop into my head. And I don't think I'm alone, because there's something about caves, they're kind of everywhere. Have you ever noticed when you watch movies or television shows? The Goonies are led through underground tunnels to save their neighborhood and complete their quest. A very large portion of Star Trek shows end up with crew members stranded on a planet with hostile natives. And never do their communicators or their transporters work. Frodo and Samwise spend a lot of time in tunnels underground with Gollum on their trail. And even, although all the little people just left, in Frozen 2, Anna and Olaf are underground in a tunnel. Our heroes always seem to be okay for a little while in these dark caves. But eventually the darkness and the pressure of being underground starts to get to them. They begin to hear things and see things. Their candles burn out. Their matches get wet. They lose their flint and steel, or maybe it is stolen. There's often a cave-in that somehow separates the group into two sections. Nobody's ever critically injured, but the group is divided. They have to figure out what to do, but everything seems hopeless. The dark can make us feel hopeless. But then something always happens. Something shifts. A rock falls. A wind blows through the cave. And somebody spots a tiny shimmer of light far away, coming through a tiny crack. Unreachable. But it's there. And because of that tiny pinprick of light, their hope surges. With their spirits renewed, they work together to attain that light and to enlarge the space and to emerge from their underground prison. With the light comes the hope and the help that they needed. Suddenly the transporter works again, or the wind leads the way home. The sun breaks through the clouds, and darkness and fear are kept at bay. It's that light that causes the change. Jesus says we are salt and light. We don't have quite as many stories about salt, probably because it is so ubiquitous in our lives, we don't even notice it or think about it unless the doctor says, don't eat so much salt. This hasn't always been the case. On the Oregon coast near Seaside, there is a historic national park where 5 men from the Lewis and Clark expedition spent the winter of 1805 and 1806. Their job? To make salt. Salt was of great importance for their survival. Information about the site states, by the time they reached the lower Columbia River region, the Corps had run out of valuable salt for seasoning food and, more importantly, preserving meat. Captain Clark didn't care if his food was salty, but many other Corps members did. And good food meant good spirits and keeping morale up during that rainy winter of 1805 to 1806 was key. On the other hand, meat preservation was a matter of life and death for the Corps. Spoiled elk meat could make the Corps sick, and without meat for the return home, they would be weakened with hunger. To make salt, they had to find rocks to build a furnace, wood to burn, ocean water to boil, fresh water to drink, and game animals. Nearby rivers weren't salty enough, so the group traveled 15 miles southwest from Fort Clatsop. There they also found homes of local Clatsop and Tillamook Indians nearby, local experts who could help the Corps members. The 5 men built the camp and set 5 kettles boiling 24 hours a day to make salt. According to their records, they set out from Fort Clatsop on December 28th of 1805, and they left their camp on February 20th of 1806. When they left, they had 3.5 bushels, or about 28 gallons, of excellent, fine, strong, and white salt. Salt, historically, has been a matter of life and death. It preserves food, enhances flavor, and in the ancient world was so important, sometimes it was used as currency. You've heard the line, oh, they're worth their salt. It means a person is competent, has earned their wage. Jesus tells us that we are salt and we are light. Kind of a huge compliment. Salt and light are things of hope, things of life. But it's also a huge responsibility. Think of all of the effort our protagonists go through to find that sliver of light. We are called to be that light. Think of the months spent on the coast keeping pots filled and fires burning 24 hours a day to retrieve salt from water in order to live. Salt and light are precious. They preserve life. They enhance the world around us. And by calling us salt and light, Jesus is telling us what our faith journey should be like. Be life givers. Bring out the true flavor of life. Cast out shadows of doubt and fear. Preserve hope and healing. Isaiah tells us how to be salt and light. Loose the bonds of injustice. Undo the thongs of the yoke. Let the oppressed go free. Break every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry. Bring the homeless poor into your house. When you see the naked, cover them. Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up quickly. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. And the world needs both, right here, right now. Jesus doesn't say, someday you'll be light, someday you'll be salt. He says it in the present tense, you are salt, you are light. The kingdom of heaven is here now. Each of us has a light to shine. Each of us has the saltiness to preserve life and hope. We are called to bring light and flavor and brightness from Christ to everything around us. Now, you've heard this before. This church exists for the sake of the world, for which Christ lived, loved, and died. We are being equipped to serve the world in all its brokenness and need. We are light and we are salt. God has placed us in the world to join in the work that is needed, to be like salt and melt icy hearts, to be like a mirror reflecting the sun, to provide light and warmth and hope that people can gather around. You are salt and you are light. Go and flavor the world with Christ's love.